every second, every day, to wait for you to hold my hand. And there is so much more to say. I could kiss you for a lifetime, stay awake to watch you sleep, fell in love with your sweet smile. You're my love and you're my life. You're my love and you're my life. And you're my life. It was so damn worth the pain. Sleepless nights and countless days. You're my sun after the rain. Oh babe, there's so much more to say. I protect you for a lifetime, keep you warm and keep you safe. Fell in love with your sweet eyes. You're the
All right, guys. Well, this is something brand new we are doing. I'm very excited for it. Welcome to the Game Time Podcast live. So that I don't know if that's really something that's new or people are doing it or if we're the first or what. But either way, it's something that we've been talking about for a long time. I know I personally have been very excited about it, and I'm happy to have Josh Awes0meking join us here, as he is really the perfect guest to have for the first podcast. I know he would probably argue that, but that's
Yeah,
why
I don't
it's
know
not.
about all that.
Well, that's why it's not up to you. But there's a lot of stuff
True.
we're gonna try to cover here today. We do have a match in a little bit, in about an hour, so I don't want to take a ton of your time because I know you were obviously busy. But definitely want to go over kind of how you got to the position you're in. What you have going on. How it all kind of ties into XCal/XP, and just kind of go over some basic esports stuff in general, and then if people want to ask questions, feel free to put them in whenever. We'll probably have a designated time for questions towards the end, but if you want to ask them kind of as we go and it kind of fits into what we're talking about, then that works too. The stream delay is off, so it should be as soon as I see it, I can react, unlike during stream time or matches where you guys hear me 30 seconds later. But anyways, guys, Josh, tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now, because some people watching may know who you are, some people you may be new to.
Yeah, for those who know, I was an admin in the original XCal when it first got started as an Xbox Amateur League. And then I was there right around the transition into Modern Warfare. And then now I am the actual general manager of the Renegades, both Australian and NA franchise organization.
So that's, I think a lot of people obviously, that have either played in XCal, XP, know you, have heard of you, and I think as much as it is for yourself, kind of a crazy change going from what we were doing to where you are now. Kind of what was that process like? Obviously, I know all about your history, but I want everyone else
Yeah.
to know how crazy and how cool the transformation has kind of been, and what that process was like.
Yeah, and first, let me apologize. For some reason, my cam is like deciding to refocus every 30 seconds, so I
Well,
apologize.
this is our first go at
Um,
it, so we're just getting all the kinks
yeah,
out of the way.
I'm working on it. So yeah, basically near the end of my time with XCal into XP, I think we were getting ready to kick off the Modern Warfare season.
Yep.
I was approached basically through a friend and was like, "Hey, I'm doing some business with a guy who's also the owner of the Renegades, an esports organization. I know you do some stuff for video games." And I'm like, "Do you want me to give you his number?" And I'm like, "Sure." Like, no, like that level of person doesn't
Well,
necessarily
duh.
call a person like me, but I'm like, "Sure, if you want to give him my number." And then the next day, he gave me a call, and we had a conversation, and basically was brought in for game time as basically kind of like a director of esports to put together an amateur scene, kind of like what we had done for XP, but not just for Call of Duty, but for multiple titles. Had was doing that part time while working full time at a different job, and then it slowly transitioned to, we had more conversations, and the Renegades spot was there, and he was trying to basically said, look, you know a lot about video games, you know a lot about the competitive scene, why not, take this opportunity? We'd love to give you this opportunity to kind of take, be the general manager of the Renegades, kind of learn, the player development and rosters and managing players and stuff like that. And I was like, it actually, surprisingly, you would think most people would jump all over it. It took me about
Yeah,
two
you were a
months.
little bit, yeah.
It took me about 2 months of really thinking about it to go, you know what, let's give this a shot. I did it part time for a little bit, just to get my feet under me, and then took off full time in August, September time, where this is all I do now. And then, still help on the game time side, still running game time as a director there. But, most of my focus is helping our players do the best they can do in each of their respective esports as they compete.
Right. And I feel like I kind of skipped a step because obviously, how we met is a little bit unorthodox. And,
Yeah,
you know,
very much so.
like we can kind of get into that in a little bit. But kind of how you and I met first off was obviously the XCal stuff. And how did you find us again? What was it, a Reddit post?
Yeah, it was a Reddit, which is surprising because I don't use Reddit. I'm probably one of the few people in video games esports who doesn't use Reddit as a tool. Now I will look at it, especially now in this new role. I look
Right.
at it a lot more than I ever did. But I was, for some reason, something popped up and I clicked on it. And it was like starting an amateur Xbox Call of Duty league if you're
Oh,
interested
yeah.
in competing. And at the time, I was doing blackout wagers and was just like, you know what? I'm not great, but I'm not bad, and had never really played. I'd been playing COD for 10 years, but never gotten to any sort of competitive levels, just
Right.
doing it for fun with friends and small little GB stuff, but never anything major. And I'm like, all right, why not? And so I joined, and then you had set it up that first season where you were put on a team randomly. And so I
Pretty
got
much.
paired up with a handful of people and we played, and I realized that at 33 I'm not as good as I used to be or probably ever was and shouldn't be here, but had fun doing it. And then a few weeks into that you were like, if anybody's interested in casting, let me know. And I reached out to you and said, hey, I love casting. I have a theater background and I love just kind of doing that kind of thing. I'd love to give it a shot. And then it just kind of snowballed into casting, then to admin,
Oh,
to
yeah.
then vice president. I think at one,
Oh, yeah.
and then
There is that very
and then
elusive title.
yeah, that the title. I moved all around it, and then basically just kind of took it from there, and then just snowballed from there into where I'm at now.
Right. Yeah. And it's really kind of crazy how, like, obviously now that I do what I do, running game time for you, but it's kind of crazy how it's all come full circle. And like how obviously we started out just kind of doing the amateur league thing for fun, and now that from what you told me, it sounds like it helped out a little bit to work into game time and Renegades and all that. But it's crazy,
Absolutely.
especially when I was up there in October, for the partnership announcement and all that stuff. Meeting you for the first time was kind of surreal because for a year and a half we'd only communicated through Xbox or Discord or random phone calls or whatever. But being able to just meet the couple people that we've kind of talked to and sporadically worked with for basically 18 months was a really kind of strange but also really cool experience for sure.
Oh no, absolutely, and it was surreal, and absolutely, I'm not here now if it wasn't for XCal. I've said that numerous times, and part of the reason why, when we at Game Time were looking to expand into our second title, because we were doing Rocket League and we were looking for a second title, it was always on my radar to do COD. That's my background. That's what I want to do. And if you're going to partner with COD, let's find somebody who's established and who's more established than what, you know, was built
Nobody's
from
more
the ground up.
established. I can answer that for you.
I mean, so it made a logical partnership, and I was glad
Yeah.
that we were able to secure a deal that, you know, benefited you, benefited us, and gave us another foothold in, you know, the next esport to have under the Game Time umbrella.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those exciting phone calls that at first I was like, what is Joshua like? I don't know what he's calling me for, whatever else. And of course, you know, it kind of turned into obviously what it is now. But you know, when it first happened, obviously I'm like, oh well, this could be, you know, pretty awesome. But I also didn't really know what the scope of it was. And now that we're sitting here, what, like 4 months later? Well, I guess the first phone call happened pretty early, like during the early summer, didn't it? And then it took pretty much the entire summer. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the first things that I had pitched, because part of our thing was we were going to build separate communities. And that's still our plan right now, is we're building each game title. We're going to build its own community and stuff like that, and then kind of intermingle. And I learned early on that to build from scratch is very hard. Whereas if you find the one person in the scene who's established and partner with them, you move 5 steps ahead of the game.
Yeah.
So, you know, we did that with J Cubed in Rocket League, who, you know, is a varsity player on the Oakland University Rocket League team and has a very well standing in the community. Partnered with him to do a Rocket League stuff. And I'm like, well, the system works. Let's not break it. And so it was like, let's just move on with XP. And then, you know, as we continue on and expand into other titles.
Yeah, it really did work out well. And, you know, there was this kind of sense of disbelief when I first talked to you about it, because like I didn't know. Like, obviously, we had our back-end conversations, but it seemed like one of those things that, like, I'd always kind of worked or did it mainly because I enjoyed it, but I didn't really think there was going to be anything that was actually going to happen. And it actually was kind of funny because you called right when I had started to somewhat seriously try to find some type of sponsorships. And obviously, you know, now working for Game Time, you know, / Renegades, you know, whatever, I have a lot more experience with sponsors and stuff like that, so I have a better idea of how crazy I was to think that a sponsor may want to invest back then. But you know, seeing it now in a little bit more holistically, it's kind of cool to have it all come full circle, because I just have a much better appreciation for, first of all, kind of what we did with bare bones, you know, being able to grow it to what it was with virtually nothing outside of, you know, old laptops and standard Xboxes, and, you know, being able to turn it into, now we have, you know, a full stream set up, and, you know, the league's bigger than it ever has been, and it's kind of crazy how it's all evolved into, you know, this thing. But enough about XP, because I feel like, you know, the people listening are kind of going to want to know, well, this is even something that I wanted to know when I first found out about your title change. But, you know, what's the day-to-day like for a GM of a high-end professional esports organization?
Confusing.
That's fair.
Very. It's a combination of, I don't want to say coach, but it's a combination of manager of players, managers of staff, as well as, you know, just overall sort of, the owners entrusted me with basically, here's our brand, not only protect it, but help it grow. So it's always about looking for opportunities, figuring out, you know, operating under, you know, different titles. Obviously, you know, getting into Valorant was my first big adventure as a GM, I could say, because when I got here, we had established teams in almost every title that we compete in now. And then Valorant came around in July, and it was like, you know, Riot behind it. Let's go. And so that process was fun, and, you know, scouting players, and that sort of like the traditional GM role you would think for like traditional sports. I do a lot of that on day to day, and I'm doing that constantly in every esport we compete in, because I'm a firm believer, if you're not looking at what makes you better, then you're probably already 3 steps behind.
That's true.
So even though, you know, I think all our teams are great and don't have any plans of doing anything, you know, you always want to make sure that you're not missing a diamond in the rough. The Renegades brand has always been a brand about not signing the biggest player in the scene, but finding the next player in the scene. You know, if you look at teams before I got here, the CSGO team, which was sold to 100 Thieves in last December, I think, roughly, or maybe January of this year, They were just a team in Australia, and Renegades gave them a chance. They blew up, and then an organization like 100 Thieves came calling, and
Yeah.
we were glad to facilitate that. You look at Fortnite pros like the X2 twins, who are and Mr. Fresh Asian, who's probably one of the biggest people on Twitch right now. If you could find somebody as Mr. Fresh Asian,
Yep.
When he was signed to Renegades, he was basically just cutting his teeth. He was just looking to compete, and we gave him that shot and we helped him grow. So that's kind of what we do is we want to find the next person
Right.
who's going to be big and help them go from not nothing, but help them go
Sure.
from low to now everybody wants them. And we don't look at it as, oh, look at these great players we lost. We look at these great players we helped grow, and look what they're doing now.
Right.
And we stick by the mantra of once a renegade is always a renegade, because all the these players that go on to succeed and just do amazing things in their respective games.
And I think that's kind of where it's really fun for the fan perspective, because like I'm always one growing up in Wisconsin, small market sports, like always been a big time sports fan or traditional sports fan. It was really easy to always feel that underdog mentality, and I'm sure up in Michigan probably similar, because smaller markets, same type of, and that's not even a shot at your team's records.
Yeah,
And it's just it's that small market, like, bulldog mentality. And that's kind of the exact same thing for Renegades. It's, like, obviously they're a tier 1 org, but on the smaller side in terms of, budget and like all these things that huge orgs like 100 Thieves and Optic and whatever else, they don't really have to worry about, because they have these huge backers and all this money that they can just throw at people. Having that kind of underdog mentality and being able to, cheer on not so much the small guy, but I guess kind of the small guy. There's a lot to that.
It's a weird thing, because we consider ourselves a tier 1 organization. So it to say that we're the underdog is kind of a misnomer, but it's also a situation where we do more with less.
Yeah.
Is the best way to put it. So Jonas Jarebko, our owner, and Chris, our owners, are amazing, and if we ever need something, they're right there to make sure that we have it.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's a situation where, you look at, I would say, like, you look at our Valorant roster as a prime example. I was
going to get to them.
Yeah, none of them would probably be on the big guys' radar. They weren't big enough, whether it be by their, their own social standards, social media standards, or whatever the case may be, to really had put themselves out there, where, we scouted them based on results.
Yeah.
And then, we had to work through some kinks early on, and had some really fun roller coaster moments throughout.
You could say that.
Valorant season. Some very high highs and some very low lows.
Yeah.
It got us to, qualifying for first strike and everything like that. And it's kind of the same thing. We will always be looked at, especially from our other teams, because our other 3, I guess, major esports right now are all based in Australia. And then we have Smite as well in NA. But from the Australian perspective, as soon as we go to a global stage, we're the underdogs, because you're coming from a region that maybe only gets 1 representative in a tournament of 20 teams.
Yep.
And, EU's getting 6, NA's getting 4, South America's getting 2.
Right.
And we're coming in from Australia, and everyone's like, wait, who are they? And we're always trying to make waves.
Yeah, for sure. And I do kind of want to circle back to the Valorant stuff, because, they're kind of like your baby in a sense, where, as you said, you scouted them, you brought them in. And I would say for your first swing in terms of, getting a roster that's basically all yours, I would say it worked out pretty damn well. I mean, like,
yeah, call it what it was. I've heard everything from amazing to a fluke, and I will take each and every one of those and say, you know what, we were there. So we qualified for the highest level you could compete in 2020 with no global lands available to us. We got to the highest peak we could get to. We're competing with the 8 best teams in North America.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't take that away in season 1.
Yeah, it is very, very crazy to, hear that story. Like, there's a lot of storylines within Renegades that are crazy, starting with you kind of working your way up to GM, to the brand new Valorant squad, to the success of the COD and CS:GO teams. There's just so many really cool storylines, and I kind of want to touch on a little bit with the Australian side of things because
Hmm.
the CS:GO team very very dominant. I guess the Rocket League team as well. COD obviously very dominant. What are in terms of what you see from like fandom or just like a general respect type of thing, do you think that the fact that those teams do compete in maybe lesser viewed regions, does that kind of affect the status of those players on that in that title individually? Like you,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the prime example is I use Pred. I'm
yeah,
in conversations every day with different people about Pred. If he were competing in NA, he's probably on a roster in the CDL.
yeah,
And that's just from insiders, talking to different teams. They want Pred.
sure,
But being from Australia, you have a lot of travel restrictions due to COVID and a lot of stuff like that, and not everybody can see him. He's thankfully still with us, and
yeah,
we're happy to have him. I think we're up to. I think we finished the season with 12 wins, 12
yep.
championships in a row, and then we won the first two this year, so we're at 14 altogether.
One of those was
Since
with a sub this year, so that's even more impressive.
yeah, Pred, and ironically, it was without Pred,
Yeah,
but yeah, like just having those guys just continuously crush it, but I don't think they get the credit they deserve. I personally feel, and again, going to conversations that I have with a lot of people on a daily basis, they are probably a top four team in the challengers if they're playing in NA right now,
yeah,
and that's probably on the low side. They probably could compete with in every single tournament.
yeah.
You figure now with the addition of Luca and Shocks, two ex CDL pros from Paris, and
Yep.
then you have Fida, who's, I mean, he's pretty much the godfather of Australian
Right.
Call of Duty, and then you have probably one of the most biggest up and coming names. I think he was just ranked like third in the top
Yep.
challengers,
I did see
top
that.
50.
Yep.
Yeah, so that team is built. It's got just, I think it's got just the right amount of pieces of veteran leadership and young
Oh yeah.
guns that if once I'm going to say this, once we get them to NA this year,
Okay, so
um,
you went ahead and jumped the gun there because I was bringing that up next. But yeah,
yeah, once we get them to an A, I think that they'll make some waves and stuff like that. And I say once in the hope that COVID goes away. COVID goes away enough that it makes it a little bit easier. It's not them leaving the country. We're finding that if we got them out into here, it's getting them back in. And
right.
obviously, you don't want to bring a player here and basically trap them.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
for
if they
sure.
want to go home, stuff like that. They have a lot of rules that you have to follow to get back into the
I'm sure.
country, and they're expensive, and it's just But we're hoping with the vaccines and with a lot of the changes to COVID policies that hopefully before the end of this season you're seeing them compete at the highest level against what I consider the cream of the crop region in
Yeah.
NA.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
and
It's
God,
I know when that roster got announced, I saw it on Twitter and there were, well, obviously I anyways, like there were a lot of calls from people pretty established in the scene to make sure they come to NA because there's a lot of hype behind this team, and obviously
mhm.
the expectation is that they'll continue to just run through the APAC region and whatever else, which isn't a knock on that region, but this team's just so good, and kind of like what you said, obviously two of them being in the CDL last season, the up and comer, the godfather of Australia, it's such a good team overall that if and when they do come here to compete, it's going to be a big opportunity for them to really put their stamp on not only the Challengers League, but also potentially things for them individually in the future, CDL wise too. So
No, absolutely, and that's the cool thing, and I think we're just getting to that point. Like right now, I've been spending the last week and a half working with different agencies. To our CS:GO team is going to Katowice for the first CS:GO LAN since COVID. So working through that process of getting those guys there. So we're really, really trying, to get that process going because I think that event is in February. So
yeah,
obviously it takes 2 months to get everything going, but
right.
yeah, and that's I think that's been the oddest thing for me is you get this job, and I call it a dream job every day when I wake up. But
I can attest to that.
it's amazing. But the one thing that kind of bugs me is I've been doing it since March and I haven't had a LAN.
I know
And
that is kind of unfair.
I have yet to be able to go and cheer on a team live. I've yet to be able to kind of have that experience as the GM, and I can't wait. So I'm even, internally talks about, where those lands are going to be and stuff like that, and just hoping that we get fans back in the building.
Yeah.
But first, I think we got to get the games played on land, and then we
Right.
can work on each step. I think it's going to be a step process.
Yeah, and obviously you hear more about this than I do because pretty much anything I hear is through you in a trickle down effect.
Yeah, right.
But like, have there been outside of the CS:GO event? Had there been talks of lands tentatively being scheduled, or is this something you can really talk about, or like other talks of it happening?
Yes and no. I think everybody's operating 2021 like we really need lands back.
Yeah.
So everyone's going into it. Maybe not January or February. I think Katowice
Right.
is kind of a special one because it's in Poland, which didn't get hit as hard,
Sure.
and there's an ability to get in there and not cause too big of a rift. But I think the plan is as you get to spring, summertime, everyone's kind of operating under this. If we have a land scheduled, it's still going to be on land or on land at that event.
On land.
I just did it.
Yeah,
on land. No,
that's the chat meme that always pops up, and you just went ahead and said it. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's fine. So I think it'll be at those events will be live, barring some weird uptick or craziness that could occur.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I know you're obviously looking forward to. I'm looking forward to, and it's like it'll just be fun to be able to experience that at some point. Like obviously you'll probably be there quite a bit, maybe not with a kid. I don't know what your flexibility is going to be or schedule wise, but it'll be cool to kind of be immersed in that scene fully, and like it'll be just really fun, obviously to make contacts, meet people that you wouldn't think you'd ever meet. And that kind of brings me into my next question is, I don't even think I've really asked you this behind the scenes yet, but you have obviously had the opportunity to talk to and, have meetings with people that a couple months ago we never thought would happen. Has there been anyone that you've talked to or had a meeting with that's been that's left you a little bit starstruck?
I don't know about starstruck, but I still, to me, like as a COD person for 10 years, and whether it be playing it, watching it, loving it, just having a conversation, just being able to like right now jump into Discord and have a conversation with Fida. Yeah. Like that's just crazy to me. Like I watched him on Mind Freak for so many years. Sure. I watched, and just be like, hey, Fida, I need you to do me a favor. I need something, or hey, can we chat for a minute? That stuff is crazy to me. As my mic just completely just sketches out for a minute.
Yeah, your cam is having issues.
Yeah, my cam is having some weird issues. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, just having that those conversations, just being able to do that. Like our Valorant event as a prime example too. Oh, yeah. Like I had to reach out to FaZe Clan and Cloud9 and TSM and T1 and just go down the list, and just being able to say, whether it was general managers of those specific teams, it was just amazing to be able to have those conversations and stuff like that and be part of that community and stuff. And try to gain the respect, right. Obviously, I'm, you don't want to go in and be like, hey, look at me, I'm this person. It's, you want to go in and earn everybody's respect. And we jokingly, I think, have said, at least with the Valorant community, and I think a lot of the COD community, it's like, once we get back to LAN, it's going to be a party.
Yeah.
Valorant's a weird situation because it's the only esport that I know of where it started and there's yet to be a LAN event, and there has been no great meetup or no great big thing. It's all been online.
Yep.
So everybody is through a Discord profile picture or a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And I think that once you get to that first event is going to be hilarious with all these people who have been talking about.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Finally getting together, and I jokingly said I think there's going to be a bar rented out for everybody to go and just hang out the day before and have fun. But like same thing with CS:GO. Like these guys, our CS:GO team is working their tail off day in, day out, winning 10 events in a row in Australia, right. Which I don't care which region you are in.
That's dominance.
That's dominance, and everyone can say, well, the Australian screen isn't that big. I'd say, well, take your team down there and try to win 10 in a row. Beat the same teams 10
right.
times. The joke
Yeah.
is, if you're better than someone, you're probably going to win 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
We managed to do 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Defying
But
defying
those
all
guys,
logic.
yeah, and those guys, work their tail off, and they've just kind of been region locked. They're
Yeah.
stuck at home, and they can't go to these events, and that's why they're so excited to go to Katowice. And same thing with COD. We win 14 in a row or 12 in a row, whatever the case may be. I would have loved to see them at champs,
Yeah.
at least at champs, just to see what they could have accomplished at that event. I know they got to compete in Minnesota shortly after forming, and
Yep.
they took fourth or some maybe placed top four in the challengers. So it's just like, man, we love.
Well, it's got to
to
be
just
the
get out
hardest
of
thing for
Australia
these
and play.
teams. I mean, because winning in the APAC region is great, but I think they all kind of have aspirations of being bigger, better, having a higher profile. Whether that's what their main goal is, just being able to win more in a higher scene, make better, win bigger pots. I mean, just stuff where they get more recognition for how good they are. And that's really tough to do when you're playing in a region that isn't known for having really top end talent consistently. And being able to have that opportunity, hopefully in 2021, to raise their stock or do whatever, that's got to be huge for them. I mean, it's going to be great for them, for Renegades as a whole, and like obviously just the gaming scene in general. Because like you said, it seemed like the COD community, that was really the only esport that I followed closely, but from the stories from like Hitch and whoever else, it seemed like basically every LAN event was just one big party. Like the players were hanging out afterwards, the staff was hanging out. It was just so much fun for everyone to get to know each other in the scene and really build those relationships. And that's something that I know you're definitely looking forward to, because it's just a much better way to, I guess, just find those friendships that the gaming community really kind of shows everybody or brings out. So yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think it's a thing where esports is still an emerging market. I don't think it's a stat. I mean, obviously it's so much bigger than what it was 10 years ago, but I don't think it's where it can be. And I think that esports is still about networking, and you network by being at these events, and you come up with great ideas from just being an event and going, what, that's really cool. If I take it and I put my spin on it, we could do something huge. And not having that opportunity in 2020 hurts. And then from a content perspective, it's so hard to make what I would say quality content. Sure, I can have a pro plug in a webcam and sit here kind of like we're doing right now.
Right. Hey, this is high quality, sir. Okay.
No, I agree, but it's a situation where you can only talk so much.
No, for sure.
You're only going to want to hear our pros talk so much.
Yeah.
You want to, fun ideas like when we have the Valorant guys in town going to play basketball and doing stuff like that, and seeing that, and seeing them in a natural element. That's really hard to do when they're on the other side of the planet and I can't move them.
Yeah.
And so we do what we can, and obviously we're looking to put a story together for 2021 around all our teams, and hope that the fans kind of understand what it is we're working with, and get behind us in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because obviously the orgs that are doing a lot of content, it's because they either have big enough budgets to send out crews to go and capture footage at wherever these players are, or they have facilities where the players are at full time anyways. Like obviously with Optic and Hex, he has his Hex quarters where the vast majority of his team is there for COD content, whatever. So it's so easy to consistently pump out content, but very few orgs have that opportunity, and that's the hardest thing. And it's not just Renegades. I mean, there are very few orgs that are putting out quality, fun content consistently, because it's so hard to do right now. And that really goes back to what you said. And being up there with the Valorant team, it was kind of surreal just to, I don't really have any experience with pro esports players, obviously. Why would I ever have that opportunity? But being able to hang out with them for like 7 days and get to know their personalities, and maybe this team in particular wouldn't be put on like some weird pedestal, but I think pros in any profession are put up on this pedestal of like, oh, like these guys are different in a sense, but in reality, I mean, they're just dudes. They just they just want to hang out.
We're all
And
still gamers at the end of the
yeah.
day. Like that's
Oh
the
yeah.
cool thing about all this is at the end of the day, we're all just people who love video games.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of cool, you latch onto a player because of, they remind you of you or they made you laugh one time and stuff like that. And, we hope to give our players that opportunity to do that. Until then, our goal is just to continue winning and continue the dominance from a, competitive side,
Right.
as much as we can. And then, as things open up and, we look to put together some quality content, we have an amazing staff who, works tirelessly behind the scenes, who most of them are sitting in chat, making fun of me or saying stuff. But,
Gotta love them.
yeah, but,
Except
we
for
have
Gilly.
an amazing staff who, when we put our minds to something, we want to execute at a high level. And I think a lot of it is, we could be executing stuff right now, but to do it at the quality that we think fits the Renegades, we need to, take our time and do it right. So
Yeah.
we're doing less is more, but
Yeah.
when we put something out there, we want to try to make it the best we can do. And we've had some hiccups, obviously, and we've had some ups and downs, but a lot more ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's anyone that wants to, chastise a org or group for not doing things, whatever their small-minded vision is, that's something that I think you're probably learning a lot now, or over the last couple of months, is being able to like shut out the silent or small minority of loudmouth people that want to say dumb stuff all the time. And like, I guess I don't know how much you see it. I don't really pay attention to it much, just because I feel like it's a part of the esports scene. Like even we dealt with it with XCal, was just there's always going to be that group of people that want to just complain and whatever else. But it's got to feel good to see the fans that are always going to be supporting and have positive things to say, see your vision, and really understand how it's going to be working towards something bigger in the future. So that's going to be something cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I forget who said it, but someone along the way has said, if you don't have haters, then you're probably doing something wrong.
That's true.
And I think it's easy. We're sometimes an easy target, and sometimes we've made ourselves an easy target with some things that just that pop up.
Sure.
It's we're not out there winning every event. We look at our own Valorant event. We hosted this big event, had all the top teams, and then we got double first rounded.
That was not a good day.
That was not a good day. But if but with every sort of rain cloud like that, 2 weeks later they qualified for first strike. So it may not have paid off. That event may not have paid off in winning or putting ourselves on the map. From a team standpoint, I think it helped definitely give us credibility within the game
for sure.
But I think it definitely benefited us. And then same thing with CS:GO. I mean, those guys, people love those guys. They're funny. When we have the ability to do some stuff, they're funny. They're every time you see them in an interview, they'll make you laugh. I mean, we've had guys riding scooters across cameras and just making fun of everything we can. And Rocket League, I don't think we've given a lot of love to the Rocket League team. I mean, those guys are crushing it.
Oh yeah.
They just won Team of the Year.
That's awesome.
For the RLO award show down in Australia. They won.
That's awesome.
We won Team of the Year. CJ is probably one of the funniest guys I've ever got to meet and see, and he does everything in the Rocket League scene, and it's just funny. He's there just Joker, and I love interacting with him. And COD guys are the same way. Those guys put their nose down and just work hard and do a lot of stuff, but they're also can be interactive and fun when we give them the chance.
Yeah, and I think that has to be probably one of the toughest things from a esport organization management perspective, because you have to find that balance of competing to win while also getting content out there. And very few players are like Scump, where they can be so good for so long but also be an absolute gem on camera. I mean, like there aren't that many people like that. And it's stuff obviously we talk about internally and whatever else, but there's also a lot of players that are just super entertaining if you put them in the right setting. And like you said with the CS:GO guys, just so much fun and whatever else. And whenever we get land back, those people can really shine, because we can do content and get them live in their element, just like having fun and being themselves, whereas doing it through a Discord call, or doing like a Renegades Among Us map, that's not really the same thing. But while they're competing and hanging out with people that they feel comfortable with, that's when they can really shine. And like honestly, that's what kind of separates those mid-tier players, content creators, to jump in that next level. And that's a big opportunity for everybody, not just our pros, but pros in general. So
No, absolutely. And our CS:GO team has an amazing manager in Will down in Australia, who has great ideas every now and then. This is like, if you were paying attention to Twitter, late last week, we did a trailer for a video of To Be Jonas.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, and it was one of our players, who says he's only playing CS:GO because he grew up idolizing Jonas Trepko and wanted to get closer to him, and it was a hilarious video, and that stuff is organic, and that's
Yep.
the other thing we try to be is we're not going to force our players into stuff that just isn't
Sure.
their personality.
Yeah.
So
well, it just comes off as
when
as
it
not
comes
being
off
real.
natural, we like it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, if anyone has any questions, we're really probably going to go another 5 or 10 minutes here because we do have a match at 9 o'clock. But if anybody in the chat has any questions for Josh, definitely put them in the chat and we will touch on them. But without those, I'll just kind of keep going here for a little bit longer. But
yeah,
I guess kind of
if anybody knows how to fix a camera, that
yeah,
me after this, because this camera's driving me nuts and I gotta get a new one.
Yeah, well, whatever. But something I kind of touching back on what I asked earlier, is there somebody that you are really looking forward to meeting within the scene? Doesn't matter what esport it is, doesn't really matter if it's even like a player or a owner or a manager. Is there somebody that you would just really love to meet in real life and be, I guess, super proud of the fact that you guys are peers,
Surprisingly, it'd be the one person who isn't really competitive. It's actually a streamer, Dr. Lupo. He's probably 95% of the reason, in a lot of cases, that I felt at 35 I still had a chance in esports.
Yep.
So that, if I ever got a chance to just be in an event with him and shake his hand, I would just, thank him for, he's a dad. He's, I think, a year younger than me. His kid's literally, I think, was born the day after my child was born.
Oh, you guys are besties.
Yeah. And what he does with his community, and like yesterday he raised,
he's amazing.
I think it was $2.3 million for charity in 24 hours this past weekend. And that kind of stuff is just baffling. Like, it shows what gaming can do. We're not just a bunch of kids in our mom's basement.
Right.
If you do it the right way, he raised $2.3 million for St. Jude. I think he's raised $67 million.
That's unreal. That's crazy.
Like, that to me is an inspiration. So I there's a lot of people who I'll be happy to meet, but if I, meeting him, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
For what he does.
Yeah. I would definitely agree there. And I don't watch Lupo as much as I used to, but he does have this kind of presence where, he doesn't seem like just an entertainer. Like, obviously he's a really funny guy in general and has this like dry sense of humor that, first of all, just clicks with me because that's kind of how I am as well. But he's also just such a good dude overall and has such a positive impact on so many communities and, groups. It's incredible. But, someone that I know I've always, if I ever get the chance to meet Hex, I would probably just lose it because he's, I mean, like he's the main reason why I feel like, or why I felt like I had an opportunity to, get into the esports scene full time. Like, obviously, like I am now, but he started Optic when he was 29 or 30, and it's obviously gotten him to where he is. But he didn't start it young. I mean, obviously, esports as a whole wasn't a thing when he was 20. But, he capitalized on the opportunity when he was older and has continued to, put this facade on. And probably it's probably just him in general. It's not actually a facade, but like he has this presence where, yeah, like he wants to get things done, but he's also just such a fun human being where he can continue to be a kid while also managing one of the biggest organizations out there, which is crazy. And, that's someone that I definitely want him to as well. So.
No, and absolutely, and everything I've heard, interacting with the people I've interacted with, is that he's organic in the sense that you're not, there's some people you always worry about, once the camera's off for the same person,
Oh yeah.
and I think especially with esports, I think there's very few people who aren't who they are on camera,
Yeah,
just because at the
I'm
end of the
sure.
day we're video gamers. So if we're gonna try to be fake, why would
It,
we be fake as
yeah,
gamers? Why
it's not
wouldn't we
gonna.
be fake at something else that
Well, plus it would probably
um
get exposed pretty quickly.
yeah, that too. It's really hard to fake gaming. So you at least have to know what you're talking about
Yeah.
before you get into the room. So yeah, and Hex would be like sitting at, if there's ever that time where there was a meeting and stuff like that, or just being in the same event with him, that would be awesome as
That'd be
well.
cool.
Obviously being an Optic fan for
Who
so many
wasn't?
years. Yeah, I mean, who was?
You were
Yeah,
either a
I
fan
mean,
or a hater.
yeah, you were either a fan or you hated them because everyone else was a fan.
Pretty much,
So
yeah.
I chose to be the fan.
Yeah,
but,
you, me both.
so
Uh,
yeah, that would be another
It's like
one.
we got Tar Heel with the question here. How hard was it for him to grow his name and get different opportunities to get where? Are you talking about Awes0meking Tar Heel or what? Because well, I guess your situation kind of came up not so much because you had some huge name yourself, but the opportunity obviously came up and you took advantage of it. But
Correct. And well, yeah, that's the benefit of this organization, is the organization who takes chances on people who they
yeah,
see potential in, as opposed to an established name in the scene.
yeah,
We do that with our players, we do that with our creators, we do that with our staff.
yep,
And so a lot of it is, yeah, I
yeah,
agree with
Chris,
Oculus. A
yep,
lot of it is luck.
mm,
And I was super lucky that I live where I live, and the Renegades headquarters is 30 minutes down the street,
yep,
and I met the person I met who met the owner, and it just kind of worked out. And but you also have to be able to be put yourself in a position when that luck does give you a shot, that you're confident in what to be able to take that. I had to go in there and basically, look what we did with XP and
right,
or XCal at the time. I jokingly said, look, we took a zero, um, nothing. It was absolutely nothing when it
yep,
started to, and with a cell phone and a couple Xboxes and a very old laptop,
yeah,
we had 30 teams by the time I left, and now it's up to 65.
yeah,
That's crazy, but it shows, and I think what they saw there is that shows hard work, that shows determination, and that shows that you have to have your finger on the pulse of a community, which is three things you need as a GM. You need to be able to
right,
have your finger on the pulse of what your fans want. You need to be able to understand the communities you're competing in, and you just need to have the drive and determination to get there.
yeah.
And thankfully, they took a shot at. They took that chance.
Yeah, for sure. And I obviously sitting where I am and knowing kind of what we do on the back end, I feel like they make great decisions, obviously. but I mean, like realistically, there are people in esports that don't have the best intentions or don't go about things the right way. There's obviously stories every single year about
Mm-hmm.
players getting the short end of the stick or whatever else. But when you are as genuine as possible, which is what you are, doing things the right way. And I mean, I've heard you talk about just doing whatever you can contract wise for players to make them as comfortable as possible. Like, I mean, there are a lot of orgs that would force players to do content, but that's something you want to force players to do if it's not something they feel comfortable doing. And even though the org and the Twitter page would benefit from it, if the players don't want to do it, then I mean that's you care more about the well-being of the players than anything else, and that's not something a lot of GMs can say. I don't think.
No, and I will say that, one, and it's not just me, it goes back long before I was here. The one thing that you will very hard to find is a former professional esports professional who played on one of our competitive teams who has anything bad to say about, the ownership or anything like that. We always make sure to do our part to take care of our players, even players who are no longer part of our organization. Like, one of the last things I've told the unfortunate, like when we've had to let players go or they've moved on, my Discord stays open, my phone's still on. If you need something, give us a call, and if we can manage it, we will help you out. Because players, we understand. I think that speaks to a lot to Jonas being a professional basketball player. He knows what it's like to be a professional athlete in a
Right.
sport. and what it means to, be taken care of,
Yep.
or not be taken care of, depending
Yeah.
on the team he's on. And he always wants to make sure that, our professionals are taken care of. And that was instilled in me when I got this position was, we take care of our players. It's 8 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock at night right now. I look over at my Discord because I know all my Australian pros are waking up. So I make sure to
Yep.
stay up till about 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. most nights, just in case they need
You were a
anything.
grinder.
Yeah, because if they need something, I'm not in Australia time zone, and it's about a 14-hour time zone difference. So I
Yep.
want to make sure that before they start, scrimming or anything like that, I make myself available to them, because I don't want them to have to wait 24 hours to get an answer back when I can.
Right. Yeah, that's a great thing, and just kind of seeing interactions and responses from people that have left the org, or are just kind of expressing how they feel during or while being a part of the org. It seems like they all are very appreciative of the effort you put in to just make everyone feel comfortable and do what you can to support as much as possible. So that's a great thing, and I hope more and more orgs find people that care more about just being a human than running a business, if that makes sense. Because I mean, esports really aren't a thing without that human aspect of it, which is, I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. You gotta understand that at the end of the day, we're all. I wake up with the mindset every day. We're all still gamers. So if you're not having fun, then you've already failed. And
Yep.
then if you're not, understanding that the person you're talking to is just a fellow gamer, then you're probably just starting off on the wrong foot. If you look at
Yep.
everybody as a pawn in a game of
Oh yeah.
business,
Mm-mm.
you're so far, you're probably disconnected from
Yeah. You
what
got.
it is that's going to make you successful or make
Yep.
your players happy, and then finding the line of organizational growth as well as player happiness.
And I know that I've talked to you about the, or I brought it up, but I am going to use one of the Valorant players as a pawn in this podcast game. So just giving you a heads up. But anyways, guys, for those of you that are in here, look forward to that, because that'll be a fun one. Someone that is just a really good dude, someone hopefully you guys can relate to, and his story is pretty cool as well. But that's something I will definitely make sure everyone knows when that one's going to be out. But I think I mean, I've had you here for about an hour now, and I know you probably got stuff going on tonight, but I appreciate you being the opening guest. Obviously, it just was perfect for you to fill this this spot here. It wouldn't be possible without you, obviously. So
No, absolutely. And, I look forward to it. And for those of you who, I know a lot of people joined the XP family after I left. For those of you, I appreciate everybody who competes in our events. I say this to a lot of, I say this to everybody, players or not. If you're competing in a game time event and reach out to me if you have a question. Drew's an amazing admin, but
well,
my door is always open as well. I don't, I'm not one of those people who are going to be like, I don't have time to deal with you. If everybody to me is on the same playing field when it comes to my time and energy, and I will do my best to help you, or at least find someone who can.
yeah.
So don't, my door is always open in that regard.
Yeah, well, you guys definitely go follow Josh on Twitter. He doesn't tweet a whole lot himself, but if you want to stay up to date on Renegade stuff, definitely go check him out. Tar Heel, I appreciate that, brother. I'm just trying to be like you. But anyways, guys, that is going to do it for the podcast. We will have this uploaded on YouTube here probably tomorrow. I have to figure out what to do, or like how to make it just audio only so we can upload it onto like just the audio platforms. I'm not sure how that works, but I'll get that going. But anyways, guys, thank you for everyone that was here. We do have a match coming up. It's going to be Render versus AS1. I'm going to restart the stream so I can get two different VODs to download and whatever else. But anyways, guys, I will be right back with you. Thanks again, Josh, and make sure to go give him a follow.
Thank you, guys.